A hotel booking mistake forced two strangers to share one bed for 3 nights. By the time they checked out, neither of them wanted to leave alone. Maya Chen stared at the hotel receptionist, hoping she'd heard wrong. The woman behind the desk repeated herself with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We only have one reservation under your company name. Just one room." James Mitchell stood beside her, running his hand through his hair. He looked just as confused as she felt. They'd both received confirmation emails. Separate rooms. That's what the booking was supposed to be. "There has to be a mistake," Maya said, pulling out her phone to show the email. "Look, it says right here. 2 rooms, 2 nights. The receptionist nodded sympathetically. "I understand, and I'm truly sorry. It appears there was an error when the reservation was made. Unfortunately, we're completely booked tonight. There's a medical conference, a wedding party, and your marketing conference all happening simultaneously." James leaned against the counter. "What about other hotels nearby?" "I've already checked, sir. Everything within 20 miles is fully booked. It's a busy weekend in Seattle." Maya felt exhaustion settling into her bones. The flight had been delayed by 3 hours. She'd barely eaten anything except airport pretzels. Her big presentation was scheduled for 9 in the morning, and she desperately needed to review her notes and get some sleep. The last thing she wanted to deal with was a hotel mix-up. She glanced at James. They worked for the same advertising firm, but in different departments. She was in marketing analytics, he was in creative. They'd passed each other in the hallway dozens of times, exchanged polite hellos in the break room, sat in a few of the same company meetings. That was about it. Nice guy. Always seemed friendly, but essentially a stranger. "One of us could sleep in the lobby," James suggested, though his tone made it clear he wasn't thrilled about the idea. Maya looked around the hotel lobby. It was elegant but busy, with people constantly moving through. The idea of trying to sleep on one of those decorative chairs while conference attendees walked by at all hours sounded miserable. She made a decision. They were both adults, both professionals. She didn't have the energy to spend the next 2 hours calling hotels or sitting in a taxi searching for vacancy signs. "We're both grown-ups," she said, more to herself than to him. "It's just sleeping. We can make this work." James raised his eyebrows. "Are you sure? I really don't mind finding somewhere else to stay. At this hour? Look, I have a presentation in the morning. You probably have early sessions too. Let's just be practical about this." She turned to the receptionist. "We'll take the room." The woman looked relieved and quickly processed their check-in. As she handed over the key card, she added, "It's a king bed, very comfortable. And there's a nice couch in the room as well if you need it." Walking toward the elevator, Maya could feel the awkwardness radiating between them. James carried both their bags without being asked, which she appreciated. The elevator ride up to the 7th floor felt longer than it probably was. Neither of them spoke. When they opened the door to room 714, Maya's heart sank a little. The room was nice, tastefully decorated in soft grays and blues. But the couch the receptionist had mentioned? It was one of those modern, decorative pieces that looked great, but would be torture to actually sleep on, and it was barely 5 feet long. James was easily 6 feet tall. "Well," James said, setting down the bags, "this is cozy." Maya walked over to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle was visible in the distance, lit up against the dark October sky. She took a deep breath. "Okay, let's set some ground rules," she said, turning around. "We keep this completely professional. You stay on your side, I stay on mine. We change in the bathroom separately. And tomorrow we ask the front desk to keep checking for any cancellations." "Agreed," James said quickly. "I'll even build a pillow wall if that makes you more comfortable." Despite the strangeness of the situation, Maya almost smiled. "A pillow wall, really? Hey, it works in movies." He was already gathering the extra pillows from the armchair. "See? We'll have a whole barrier system here. You won't even know I'm on the other side." They established a routine quickly. Maya went into the bathroom first, changing into her pajamas and brushing her teeth. When she came out, James went in with his bag. She used the time to set up her laptop on the small desk, pulling up her presentation notes. The bathroom door opened, and James emerged wearing a plain t-shirt and sweatpants. He'd clearly had the same idea about keeping things modest. He pointed to his side of the bed, the one nearest the door. "I'll take this side. That way if anyone breaks in during the night, they'll have to go through me first." Maya looked at him. "That's either very chivalrous or you're trying to make me feel guilty about this whole situation." "Honestly, bit of both," he admitted with a slight grin. She found herself almost laughing. Maybe this wouldn't be completely terrible. They climbed into bed on their respective sides, the pillow wall standing between them like a soft, fluffy fence. Maya turned off the lamp on her nightstand. James did the same on his side. The room fell into darkness with only the faint glow from the window. "Good night," James said quietly. "Good night," Maya replied. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every sound. She could hear him breathing on the other side of the pillows, the occasional rustle as he adjusted his position. This was so weird. When she'd packed for this conference 3 days ago, sharing a bed with a coworker had definitely not been on her agenda. Her mind drifted to why she'd volunteered to come to this conference in the first place. The divorce had been finalized 4 months ago. She'd thrown herself into work, staying late at the office, taking on extra projects, saying yes to every opportunity. Anything to avoid going home to her empty apartment and thinking about how her marriage had fallen apart. Everyone had told her that David was perfect for her. Stable job, good family, wanted the same things she wanted, except somewhere along the way she'd realized she'd been trying so hard to be what he wanted that she'd lost track of who she actually was. The divorce had been mutual, relatively painless, but it had left her feeling hollow. On the other side of the pillow wall, James was having his own thoughts. He stared at the darkness, thinking about how random life could be. A booking error, and now he was sharing a bed with Maya Chen from the analytics department. He'd noticed her before, of course. Hard not to notice someone that smart in meetings. The way she could break down complex data and make it make sense for everyone. He'd almost asked her out once, months ago, after a particularly good presentation she'd given, but then he'd talked himself out of it. Getting involved with a coworker seemed complicated. Plus, he had his own baggage to deal with. 3 years since Rachel had called off their engagement, and he still hadn't managed to have a relationship that lasted more than a few months. The pillow wall between them felt symbolic somehow. They were both there, but carefully maintaining distance. Both trying to be professional. Both probably overthinking this entire situation. "Are you asleep?" Maya's voice came quietly from the other side. "No," James answered. "Too weird?" "So weird," she confirmed. "I keep thinking about how I'm going to explain this to people at work." "We don't have to explain anything. It's nobody's business." "True, but you know how offices are. Someone always finds out everything. Then we tell them the truth. Booking error, fully booked hotel, we handled it like adults. Nothing happened." "Nothing happened," Maya repeated like she was trying to convince herself this was all perfectly normal. They fell silent again. Minutes passed. Maya felt her body finally starting to relax, exhaustion winning over awkwardness. Tomorrow would be a long day. She needed sleep, Maya. James's voice came through the darkness once more. "Yeah? Good luck with your presentation tomorrow. I've seen you present before. You're really good at it." She felt a small warmth in her chest at the unexpected compliment. "Thanks. That's nice of you to say. Just the truth." Maya smiled in the darkness, then finally let her eyes close. Maybe this bizarre situation would make a funny story someday. Maybe it would just be a strange memory. Either way, she was too tired to worry about it anymore. The pillow wall stood between them, and somehow that made it easier. Tomorrow they'd wake up, go to their conference sessions, and probably laugh about this awkward night. Everything would go back to normal. At least that's what both of them thought as they drifted off to sleep. Maya's alarm went off at 6:30, pulling her from a surprisingly deep sleep. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the unfamiliar weight of the hotel comforter and remembered everything. The shared room, James, the pillow wall. Except the pillow wall was gone. Sometime during the night it had fallen apart, pillows scattered across the bed and on the floor, and she was definitely closer to the middle of the bed than she'd started. Heat crept up her neck as she carefully moved back to her side. James was still asleep, facing away from her. She quietly got out of bed, gathered her clothes, and slipped into the bathroom. The hot shower helped wake her up fully, and as she went through her morning routine, she felt her confidence returning. Today was about her presentation. Nothing else mattered. When she emerged, dressed in her navy blue suit, James was sitting up in bed looking rumpled and half awake. "Morning," he mumbled. "Morning. Bathroom's all yours." She began organizing her presentation materials, trying not to think about how normal this felt, like they'd done this routine 100 times before. An hour later, they were both in the hotel restaurant for breakfast. The conference badge hanging around her neck made everything feel more official, more real. James sat across from her and they ate mostly in silence, both checking their phones and reviewing schedules. "Your presentation is at 9, right?" he asked, taking a sip of coffee. "Yeah. How did you know?" "I checked the conference program. I thought I might sit in if that's okay." "The topic sounds interesting." Maya felt surprised and a little pleased. "You want to watch me talk about marketing analytics for an hour?" "I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds boring," he said with a slight smile. "But actually, yes. I think the creative and analytics departments should collaborate more. Maybe I'll learn something useful." She found herself smiling back. "Well, don't blame me if you fall asleep. I make no promises." The conference center was attached to the hotel, which made getting there easy. Maya felt her nervous energy building as they walked through the hallways filled with other attendees. She'd given dozens of presentations, but she always felt this way right before. The doubt creeping in, wondering if people would find her content valuable or boring. They reached the room where her session would be held. Already people were filtering in, finding seats, setting up their laptops. James touched her arm gently. "You've got this," he said. "I'll be in the back." His confidence in her felt steadying. She nodded and walked to the front of the room, connecting her laptop to the projector. The presentation went better than she'd hoped. The room was nearly full and people seemed genuinely engaged with her content. She'd spent weeks preparing this talk on predictive analytics in consumer behavior, and it showed. The questions afterward were thoughtful, and several people came up to ask for her contact information. As the room emptied, James walked up to the front. He looked genuinely impressed. "That was really good, Maya, seriously. The part about using seasonal data patterns, that's going to help with a campaign I'm working on." She felt pride blooming in her chest. "Really, you actually paid attention?" "Every word." "Can I buy you lunch later to pick your brain about applying some of those concepts?" They ended up in a small cafe near the conference center, sitting by the window. What started as a work conversation gradually shifted into something more personal. James talked about the creative challenges of his department, how sometimes clients wanted safe ideas instead of innovative ones. Maya found herself opening up about the frustrations of her job, how people often saw analytics as just numbers without understanding the stories those numbers told. "It's like people think data is cold," she said, gesturing with her fork. "But to me, every data point represents a real person making a real decision." "That's not cold at all. I never thought about it that way," James admitted. "I'm guilty of that too, honestly. In creative meetings, when someone brings up data, I usually zone out. And when analytics sits in on creative presentations, we probably seem like we're trying to ruin all the fun ideas." They both laughed at the realization. The afternoon sessions felt less important after that. They sat together in the back of various presentations, occasionally whispering comments to each other. Maya felt herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in months. Since the divorce, she'd kept herself so tightly controlled, afraid that if she let her guard down, everything would fall apart again. But something about James felt safe. That evening, back in their shared room, the awkwardness from the night before was mostly gone. They'd fallen into an easy routine. James ordered room service while Maya changed out of her suit into comfortable clothes. When she came out of the bathroom, he had his laptop open, showing her funny videos from a creative campaign that had gone wrong. "Wait, watch this part," he said, turning the laptop so she could see better. The client asked for a bear mascot, but the costume was terrifying. Kids were crying. Maya laughed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "That's awful. Why would they still use it?" "Pride, probably. After spending that much on the costume, they didn't want to admit it was a disaster. Their food arrived and they ate sitting on the bed, backs against the headboard, plates balanced on their laps. It felt surprisingly natural. They talked about everything. Favorite movies turned into a debate about whether old comedies or new ones were better. That led to discussing their worst first dates, which had them both laughing so hard Maya nearly choked on her water. "Okay, but yours isn't even that bad," James said. "The guy who brought his mother isn't nearly as bad as the woman who spent the entire date on her phone live tweeting about how boring I was." "No," Maya gasped. She didn't, she did. I could see the tweets in real time because she tagged the restaurant's location. "Date is talking about his job again, send help." "That's horrible." "It was humbling, I'll tell you that much." As the laughter faded, a comfortable silence settled between them. Maya felt something shifting, some invisible line being crossed. This wasn't just two coworkers making the best of an awkward situation anymore. They were connecting, really connecting. "Can I ask you something personal?" James said quietly. Maya tensed slightly but nodded. "Sure. The other day at work, I overheard someone mention you'd gotten divorced recently. I'm sorry if that's hard to talk about, but you seem like you're handling it well." She appreciated that he was being direct instead of dancing around it. "It's been 4 months, and honestly, handling it well might be generous. I'm mostly just staying busy so I don't have to think about it too much." "Is that why you volunteered for this conference?" "Partly. My ex-husband and I were together for 6 years, married for 3. When it ended, I realized I'd spent all that time trying to be who he wanted me to be. I forgot who I actually was. So now I'm trying to figure that out." James nodded slowly. "I get that. Different situation, but I understand the feeling. My ex-fiancée called off our wedding 3 years ago, 3 weeks before the date. She said she realized she didn't actually want to marry me, she just wanted to get married. Like I was interchangeable with anyone else. That's terrible. I'm sorry, it messed me up for a while. I kept dating but never let anything get serious. Easier to keep people at a distance than risk that kind of rejection again." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. His guard was down, vulnerability written across his face. She recognized it because she felt the same way. "We're a pair, aren't it? Both hiding from actually connecting with people." "Yeah," he agreed softly. "We really are." The moment felt heavy with meaning. Maya knew she should probably change the subject, keep things light, maintain those professional boundaries. But she didn't want to. For the first time in months, she wanted to be honest with someone. "I'm scared," she admitted, "of getting close to someone again. Of losing myself trying to make someone else happy. Of being hurt." "Me too," James said. "I'm terrified, actually. It's easier to keep things surface level, casual, safe. But lonely. Yeah, really lonely sometimes." They sat there, the weight of their shared confessions filling the space between them. The television was still on, some late-night show playing quietly in the background, but neither of them was paying attention to it. Maya felt her heart beating faster. There was a charge in the air now, something electric and uncertain. She should definitely change the subject. Talk about work or the conference or literally anything else. Instead, she said, "Thank you for sitting in on my presentation today. And for lunch. And for making this weird situation not completely terrible." James smiled. "Thank you for not making me sleep on that ridiculous couch." They both looked at the decorative couch and laughed, breaking some of the tension. "I guess we should get some sleep," Maya said, though she didn't move. "Tomorrow's another full day of sessions." "Yeah, probably should." But neither of them moved. They sat there, shoulders almost touching, both aware that something had shifted between them. The pillow wall from the night before felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. Finally, Maya reached over and turned off her bedside lamp. James did the same. They slid down under the covers, and this time there was no awkward distance. They weren't touching, but they weren't trying so hard to stay apart either. "Good night, Maya," James said into the darkness. "Good night, James." As she closed her eyes, Maya felt something she hadn't. Maya woke up to sunlight streaming through the hotel curtains and the realization that her hand was touching James's arm. She pulled it back quickly, carefully, hoping he was still asleep. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. She took a moment to just breathe, processing the complicated feelings swirling in her chest. Yesterday had changed things. Those conversations, that vulnerability, it meant something. She knew it did. And that scared her more than she wanted to admit. Getting ready that morning felt different. They moved around each other with an easy familiarity now, like dancers who'd learned each other's rhythms. James made coffee using the room's small coffee maker, while Maya finished her makeup in the bathroom. He handed her a cup just the way she liked it, with cream and 1 sugar, because he'd noticed how she made it the morning before. "Thank you," she said, surprised by the gesture. Of course, at breakfast, they ran into some of their colleagues from the office. Tom from accounting waved them over to his table. "Hey, you two. How's the conference treating you?" Maya felt her stomach tighten. Here it comes, she thought, the questions about why they were together so much. "It's great," James said smoothly. "Maya gave an incredible presentation yesterday." If you see it on the recorded sessions later, definitely watch it. Tom looked impressed. Really? That's awesome. I might actually do that. Hey, are you both going to the networking event tonight? Probably skipping it, Maya said. After 2 full days of sessions, I think my brain needs a break. Mine too, James agreed. We might just explore the city a bit. Tom grinned. You two seem to be getting along well. About time someone got James out of his creative department bubble. After Tom left, Maya looked at James. Did we just make plans without actually discussing it? He smiled. I guess we did. Unless you actually wanted to go to the networking event? Absolutely not. Those things are torture. Everyone's standing around with drinks pretending to be interested in each other's business cards. So we're exploring Seattle instead? Apparently we are. The conference sessions that day felt longer than the day before. Maya found herself distracted, glancing over at James during presentations, catching him looking back at her. When their eyes met, they'd both smile and quickly look away, like teenagers with a crush. During the afternoon break, they walked through the conference center together. Other attendees moved around them, caught up in their own conversations, but Maya felt like she and James existed in their own bubble. So where should we go tonight? James asked. I've never really explored Seattle before. Pike Place Market, Maya suggested. I've always wanted to see it. The fish throwing, the original Starbucks, all the tourist stuff. Tourist stuff it is. They skipped the final session of the day and headed out early. The October air was crisp and cool, perfect for walking. Pike Place Market was everything Maya had hoped for, crowded and chaotic and full of life. They watched the famous fish vendors throwing salmon back and forth, calling out to customers. Street musicians played on corners, the smell of fresh flowers mixed with coffee and seafood. James bought them both coffee from a small shop, not the touristy Starbucks, but a local place tucked away down a side corridor. They walked along the waterfront watching the ferries come and go, the Olympic Mountains visible in the distance. This is nice, Maya said. I can't remember the last time I just walked around a city without any particular destination in mind. Me either. I'm usually too focused on where I'm going to enjoy the journey. That sounds like a metaphor for life. Everything sounds like a metaphor when you're in a good mood, he teased. She bumped his shoulder with hers playfully. Fine, no deep thoughts. Just walking and coffee and fish throwing. They found a small restaurant near the water and had dinner as the sun set over Puget Sound. The conversation flowed as easily as it had the night before. James told her about growing up in Portland, the youngest of 4 kids, always trying to stand out. Maya shared stories about being an only child, the pressure she'd felt to be perfect for her parents. They loved David, she said, her ex-husband's name feeling strange in her mouth. He checked all their boxes. Good education, good family, stable career. When we got divorced, I think they were more disappointed than I was. Are you close with them? Not really. Not anymore. I realized during the divorce that I'd been living my life for them almost as much as I'd been living it for David. Now I'm trying to figure out what I actually want, separate from everyone else's expectations. James reached across the table and squeezed her hand briefly. That takes courage. The touch was brief but meaningful. Maya felt warmth spreading through her chest. After dinner, they walked back toward the hotel slowly, neither of them in a rush to end the evening. The city lights reflected off the water. Couples walked past them hand in hand. Maya found herself wishing she could reach for James's hand but held back. Can I tell you something? James said as they walked. Sure. When we got assigned to this conference, I barely knew who you were. I mean, I knew your name, knew you worked in analytics, but that was it. Now I keep thinking about how random life is, a booking error, and suddenly I'm having the best conversations I've had in years. Maya's heart beat faster. I've been thinking the same thing. They stopped walking, standing under a streetlight. James turned to face her fully. This is probably a bad idea, he said softly. Getting involved with someone from work. Starting something when we're away from real life. All the logical reasons say we should keep this professional. But, Maya prompted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I haven't felt this connected to someone in a long time. Maybe ever. And I know we're both scared. I know we both have reasons to keep our walls up. But what if we didn't? Maya looked up at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the hope mixed with fear. She recognized it because she felt exactly the same way. I'm terrified, she admitted, of getting hurt, of losing myself again. of this being just conference magic that disappears when we go back home. Me too. But maybe it's worth being scared if it means we actually try for something real. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Maya thought about all the reasons to step back, to keep things professional, to protect her heart. But she also thought about the last 2 days, about feeling more like herself than she had in years, about the way James made her laugh and listened when she talked and seemed to actually see her. She made a decision. Okay, she said, let's try. But we go slow, no rushing into anything, and we're honest with each other even when it's scary. James smiled, relief and joy crossing his face. I can do slow, honest and slow. And we don't tell everyone at work right away. Let's figure out what this is before we have to explain it to other people. Deal. They started walking again, and this time James reached for her hand. She let him take it, their fingers intertwining naturally. It felt both thrilling and terrifying, like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. Back at the hotel, they got ready for bed with a new awareness between them. The casual intimacy of the past 2 nights had shifted into something charged with possibility. Maya changed in the bathroom, taking extra time, her mind racing. When she came out, James was already in bed, reading something on his phone. He looked up and smiled at her, and she felt her stomach flip. She climbed into bed on her side, but this time there was no pretense of maintaining distance. James put his phone down and turned toward her. Thank you for giving this a chance, he said quietly. Thank you for being honest with me. They lay there, facing each other in the dim light from the window. James reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture gentle and intimate. Can I kiss you? He asked, his voice soft. Maya's breath caught. Every logical part of her brain said this was too fast, too risky. But her heart said something different. Not yet, she whispered. I want to. I really want to. But I think we should wait, take our time. She expected disappointment, but James just smiled. That's fair. Slow and honest, remember? Slow and honest, she echoed. He took her hand instead, holding it between them. This okay? This is perfect. They fell asleep that way, hands clasped, the promise of something new and fragile hanging in the air between them. Maya's last thought before drifting off was that maybe, just maybe, taking a risk on connection was worth the fear that came with it. Tomorrow was their last full day at the conference. Then they'd go back to real life, back to the office, back to all the complications that came with trying to build something genuine in a world full of expectations and pressures. But tonight, in this hotel room that had somehow become a bubble outside of normal reality, they could just be 2 people choosing to be brave together, and that felt like enough. The last day of the conference started with an urgency that neither of them had expected. Maya woke to find James already up, sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone pressed to his ear, his voice tense. Yes, I understand. 48 hours, I got it. Thank you for calling. He ended the call and sat there staring at his phone. Everything okay? Maya asked, sitting up. James turned to look at her, and she saw something in his expression that made her chest tighten. Conflict. Maybe even panic. That was the creative director from Hansen & Burke in New York. Maya knew the name. Everyone in advertising knew Hansen & Burke. They were one of the top agencies in the country, the kind of place where careers were made. I interviewed with them 3 months ago, James continued, his voice careful. It was more of a dream scenario thing. I never thought I'd actually get it. I kind of forgot I'd even applied. And? Maya's throat felt dry. They're offering me the position. Senior Creative Director. It's everything I've been working toward for years. The salary, the projects, the opportunity. That's amazing, James. Congratulations. She meant it even as her heart started to sink. There's a catch. They need an answer within 48 hours. And if I accept, they want me to start in 2 weeks. There's a major campaign launching and they need someone immediately. The silence that followed felt heavy. Maya could see him processing, his mind racing through implications and decisions. She was doing the same. 2 weeks. New York, 3,000 miles away. They just started this. Just barely opened the door to something real. And now reality was crashing in with the force of a freight train. You have to take it, Maya said, forcing her voice to stay steady. This is your dream job. It was, he said quietly. 3 days ago it absolutely was. But now... He trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished. The weight of what he wasn't saying hung between them. They went through the motions of getting ready. but the easy rhythm they'd developed was gone. James was distracted, distant. Maya tried to give him space to think, but she could feel him pulling away, and it hurt more than she wanted to admit. The morning sessions passed in a blur. Maya sat in presentations without absorbing anything. Her mind kept circling back to the same thoughts. Of course this would happen. Of course, just when she'd finally let her guard down, just when she'd started to believe in something, reality would prove why walls existed in the first place. She'd done it again. Opened herself up to getting hurt. When would she learn? During lunch, James barely touched his food. Maya wanted to ask what he was thinking, but she was afraid of the answer. They were supposed to leave tomorrow morning, go back to their normal lives, try to figure out how to date while working at the same company. That had been the plan. Simple, manageable. This was not simple. I need to think, James finally said. Can we skip the afternoon sessions? Just walk around or something? Sure. They ended up at a small park near the waterfront, sitting on a bench watching joggers and dog walkers pass by. The October sky was gray, threatening rain. It matched Maya's mood perfectly. Talk to me, she said finally. Tell me what you're thinking. James leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. I'm thinking that this job offer is everything I thought I wanted. It's validation that I'm good at what I do. It's the opportunity to work on campaigns that millions of people will see. It's security and prestige and everything my career has been building toward. But 3 days ago I was emotionally shut down. Going through the motions, keeping everyone at arm's length because it was safer than risking anything real. Then I met you. Actually met you, not just passed you in the hallway. And I felt something I haven't felt in years. Maya's eyes stung. James, I'm not saying you're responsible for my happiness or my decisions. That wouldn't be fair. But I can't pretend that what happened this week doesn't matter. I can't pretend that the idea of moving across the country away from you doesn't make me feel sick. But you should take the job, Maya said, and she believed it even though it hurt to say. You can't turn down your dream because of someone you met 3 days ago. That's not how life works, isn't it though? Aren't the best things in life the unexpected ones? The ones that catch you off guard? Or maybe this is just conference magic. Maybe we're caught up in the bubble of being away from home, and when we get back to real life, this feeling won't even last. She saw hurt flash across his face. You don't believe that. I don't know what I believe. Maya stood up, frustration and fear mixing together. I know that I'm terrified. I know that I just got out of a marriage where I lost myself completely. I know that I've spent 4 months building walls so I wouldn't get hurt again. And then you came along and I let those walls down, and now this is happening. So what are you saying? Maya wrapped her arms around herself. I'm saying that you should take the job. I'm saying that this, whatever this is between us, it's too new and too fragile to base a major life decision on. I'm saying that maybe we got caught up in something that was never meant to last beyond this week. Stop. James stood up too, his voice sharp. Stop doing that. Stop protecting yourself by pretending this doesn't matter. I'm being realistic. You're being scared. We're both scared. But there's a difference between being cautious and sabotaging something before it even has a chance. They stood there facing each other, both breathing hard. Maya felt tears threatening and hated herself for it. She'd cried enough over her divorce. She wasn't going to cry over something that had barely begun. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. You want me to ask you to stay? To turn down your dream job for someone you barely know? That's not fair to either of us. I want you to be honest. Do you feel something real here, or was I imagining it? Of course I feel something. That's why this is so hard. Then why are you pushing me away? Because you're leaving. You're going to take that job, and you should take that job. And I'm not going to be the reason you resent me in 6 months when you realize you gave up everything for someone you met at a conference. James stepped back like she'd slapped him. Wow. You really have this all figured out, don't you? You've already written the ending before we even had a real beginning. I'm trying to protect both of us. No, you're trying to protect yourself. There's a difference. The words stung because they were true. Maya looked away, blinking back tears. They walked back to the hotel in silence. The energy between them had shifted from connection to conflict, and Maya hated it. Hated that she'd pushed him away. Hated that he was probably right about her being scared. Hated that life couldn't just be simple for once. Back in room 714, they moved around each other like strangers. The easy intimacy of the past few days was gone, replaced by careful distance. James packed his bag methodically. Maya pretended to review conference notes on her laptop. but couldn't focus on a single word. As evening approached, the silence became unbearable. "I'm going down to the lobby," James said. "I need to make some calls about the job." After he left, Maya sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears of frustration and loss. She'd done this to herself. She could have been brave. Could have said, "Yes, let's try long distance. Let's see if this is real." Instead, she'd panicked and pushed him away, just like she'd been pushing everyone away for months. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Rachel. "How's the conference? Learning lots of boring marketing stuff?" Maya stared at the message, then started typing. "I think I messed everything up," Rachel called immediately. "What happened?" Maya told her everything. The shared room, the conversations, the connection with James, the job offer, the fight. "So let me get this straight," Rachel said when she finished. "You met a guy who makes you feel something real for the first time since the divorce. He's honest with you, vulnerable with you, and clearly cares about you. And when faced with a complicated situation, you immediately assumed it wouldn't work and pushed him away. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. Because it is bad, Maya. You're doing exactly what you did in your marriage. You're making decisions based on what you think other people need instead of being honest about what you want. But he should take the job. It's his dream. Maybe. Or maybe his dreams have changed. Maybe having someone real in his life matters more than a fancy title. But you didn't even give him the chance to make that choice. You decided for him." Maya closed her eyes. "I'm so scared, Rach. What if I open up and it doesn't work? What if I'm not enough? What if you're enough? What if you're so busy protecting yourself that you miss out on something amazing? You can't live your whole life afraid of getting hurt?" After they hung up, Maya sat with Rachel's words. She thought about her marriage, about how she'd spent years being who David wanted her to be. But this was different. James wasn't asking her to change. He was asking her to be brave enough to try. She heard the door open. James came in looking tired. He set his phone down and sat on the edge of the bed, not looking at her. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. Maya's heart raced. "Okay." I called the agency. I told them I need more time to think. They weren't happy, but they agreed to wait until Monday for my answer. "James, let me finish." He turned to face her. "I've been thinking about what you said. About not basing major life decisions on someone I just met. And you're right, that would be irresponsible. But you're also wrong." "How am I wrong?" "Because this isn't about you making my decision for me. This is about me figuring out what I actually want. For 3 years I've been telling myself that career success would fill the void that Rachel left when she called off our wedding. I've been working insane hours, taking on every project, climbing the ladder because I thought that's what would make me happy." He paused, running his hand through his hair. "But this week, sharing this room with you, talking until we fell asleep, laughing over room service, I felt more like myself than I have in years. And that's not about you fixing me or being responsible for my happiness. It's about me realizing that maybe I've been chasing the wrong things." Maya felt tears forming again, but different ones this time. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know what I'm going to decide about New York. Maybe I'll take it. Maybe I won't, but either way I want to try this. With you, us, whatever this is. But how would that even work? If you're in New York and I'm here? I don't know. Video calls, flights every few weeks, counting down days until we see each other again. It would be hard. It would be complicated. But Maya, easy and comfortable is what we've both been doing for years, and look where that got us. Maybe it's time to try something difficult but real." Maya felt something breaking open in her chest. All the walls she'd built crumbling down. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "Me too. What if I'm not good at long distance? What if we try and it doesn't work? What if we try and it does work? What if we're so focused on protecting ourselves from the what-ifs that we never find out what could be?" She looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the fear in his eyes that matched her own. Saw the hope too. Saw someone who was willing to be vulnerable even when it was scary. Who was willing to try even when there were no guarantees. "I've been running from connection for months," she admitted. "Ever since David and I split up. I told myself I was finding myself, but really I was just hiding. Staying busy so I wouldn't have to risk feeling anything. And now I'm sitting in a hotel room with someone I barely knew 4 days ago. And I'm more terrified than I've been in years. But I'm also feeling things I thought I'd forgotten how to feel. Hope, excitement. The possibility that maybe I could be myself with someone and that would be enough." James reached for her hand. You are enough. You're more than enough. Don't take the job, Maya said suddenly, then immediately shook her head. No, wait. That's not what I mean. Take the job if it's what you really want. But don't take it because you're running from this. And don't turn it down because you think that's what I want to hear. Make the decision that's right for you. And if I take it, then we try. Long-distance video calls, flights when we can afford them. We try because what we found this week is worth trying for. And if I don't take it, then we still try. Dating like normal people. Dinner on Friday nights. Meeting each other's friends. Figuring out how to be together in real life, not just in a conference hotel bubble. James smiled, and Maya felt warmth spreading through her chest. Either way, we try, he said. Either way, we try, she agreed. He pulled her closer, and this time when he asked, "Can I kiss you?" she didn't hesitate. Yes. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, like they were both still afraid of breaking something fragile. But then it deepened, became more certain. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. That was worth waiting for, James said, definitely worth waiting for. They spent the rest of the evening talking about practical things, what long distance would look like if he took the job, how they'd handle dating while working at the same company if he didn't. They made plans, not perfect plans but real ones, plans that acknowledged the difficulty while choosing to try anyway. That night, they fell asleep tangled together the last night in room 714. Tomorrow they'd check out, fly home, return to their regular lives, but they wouldn't be returning as the same people who'd arrived 4 days ago. Maya woke up early watching the sunrise through the hotel window. James was still asleep, his breathing steady and peaceful. She thought about how random life was. A booking error had led to this. One small mistake in a reservation system and her entire path had shifted. She could have been angry about the error. Could have demanded they fix it immediately. Could have refused to share the room. Any of those choices would have been reasonable, and any of them would have meant never knowing what this felt like. James stirred, opening his eyes. Morning. Last day in our weird little bubble. Yeah. Nervous about going back to real life? Terrified. But also excited. Is that strange? Not at all. I feel the same way. They took their time getting ready, neither wanting to rush their last morning together before everything changed. At checkout, the same receptionist who told them about the booking error smiled at them. I hope the room worked out all right despite the circumstances. Maya and James looked at each other and smiled. It worked out perfectly, Maya said. At the airport, their flights were at different times. James had 2 hours before his departure. Maya's flight was in 45 minutes. They stood at the security checkpoint, both aware that this was a moment that mattered. Call me when you land, James asked. I will. And you'll let me know about the job when you decide? The second I know, you'll know. Maya took a deep breath. James, whatever you decide, I'm glad this happened. I'm glad we had this week. Me too. Though I'm hoping this isn't the end of the story. More like the end of the first chapter. The beginning of chapter 2? Exactly. Her boarding announcement sounded over the speaker. Time to go. I should get through security, Maya said, not moving. You should. Neither of them moved. Then Maya made a decision. She stepped forward and kissed him, right there in the busy airport with travelers rushing past them. When she pulled back, both of them were grinning. That's a proper goodbye, she said. That's a proper see you soon, he corrected. She walked toward security, turning back twice to wave. James stood there until she disappeared through the checkpoint. Then he waved one last time. On the plane, Maya looked out the window as Seattle grew smaller below her. She thought about what Rachel had said, about being so afraid of getting hurt that you miss out on something amazing. For years, she'd been playing it safe. First trying to be perfect for her parents, then for David. After the divorce, she'd built walls to avoid getting hurt. But walls didn't just keep pain out. They kept everything out. Joy, connection, love. The messy, scary, beautiful parts of being human. James had shown her something important. That being vulnerable wasn't weakness. That taking risks on real connection was braver than hiding behind walls. That sometimes the best things in life came from unexpected booking errors and shared hotel rooms and choosing to try even when you were terrified. Her phone buzzed as the plane taxied to the gate at home. A text from James, landed safely. Already missing room 714, she smiled and typed back, Me too. but excited for whatever comes next. 3 days later, Maya was at work when her phone rang. James's name on the screen. "Hey," she answered. "Hey. So I made my decision about the New York job." Her heart raced. "And?" I turned it down. Maya's breath caught. "James, you didn't have to do that for me." "I didn't. I did it for me." I realized something. I've been chasing external validation my whole career, thinking that the next big job, the next impressive title, would finally make me feel successful. But it wouldn't. It would just be another thing to chase. "Guys, are you sure?" "I'm sure." I talked to my boss here. Told him I was considering leaving and why. He offered me a new position. Lead creative director.